Hey, and what is going on, everybody? It is Zero here, back with some more Diablo action for you. Today we are talking about some Demon Hunter action. For a change. Still no SMK, so we gotta carry on with some other stuff, right? Yeah, let's get into it, okay? I'm gonna go over the skills first, guys. So this build is a little weird. This is a wicked build, actually. This is a build that's gonna carry over nicely into the next patch based on the new Marauder set piece changes. And I think you're going to actually see a lot more of it come that patch. You're going to see this version of it, and you're going to see another variant of it, okay? So let's get right into the skills. We're using Elemental Arrow, Ball, Lightning. Shoot a ball of lightning that electrocutes enemies along its path for 300% weapon damage as lightning. Bah, 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 bah. You guys know what that is. Mark for death, mortal enemy, and we're using mortal enemy because we need hatred regeneration on this build, guys. We need lots and lots of ways to get hatred back because we are not using a generator, we're using a spender. So this is very important, and you're going to primarily be using this on the bigger enemies that take a little bit longer to put down. Bigger enemies that your ball lightning will hit multiple times to try and get back as much hatred as possible. Using smoke screen, lingering fog, and this is gonna be something you're using a lot in this build. You're actually gonna be able to pretty much spam this if you have enough cooldown reduction. It's just fantastic. Companion, back companion. Now the only reason we have the back companion on here is because we want to be able to pop this whenever we're a little low on hatred. Because as you can see here, the active ability of this skill is instantly gain 50 hatred, and that's what we're going for. So we're gonna have all the pets out anyway because of the Marauders set, but we can pop this at any time just to get 50 hatred back instantly. Preparation with punishment restores 75 hatred, again just because we're gonna need hatred. If we want to be able to spam elemental arrow, ball lightning, we need our hatred, okay? And sentry, polar station, and we'll talk a little bit more about why we are using polar station on here in a moment. Passive skills, guys, we're going with Blood Vengeance. Your maximum hatred is increased by 25. In addition, gain 30 hatred and 3 discipline when you are healed by a health globe. So that's just another source of hatred regen for us. Awareness, this is like a must for any Demon Hunter in my opinion. When you receive fatal damage, you instead vanish for 2 seconds and regenerate 50% of maximum life. This can occur every 60 seconds. Call of the Week. Color of the Week because increased damage against slowed or chilled enemies, and that comes into play with our polar station. So any enemy that's within the bubble of the polar station is going to proc this extra damage. And finally, we're using Night Stalker. Crits have a chance to restore 1 discipline. Discipline is used to fuel many of your tactical and defensive skills. So those are the skill, guys, and we'll get into these in a little bit more detail in a moment, guys. Okay, let's look at the gear. So obviously, straight up, we're going to need the Marauder set, okay, guys? There's a couple of different ways you can run this, and right now I'm going to show you guys, A, because I don't have a TNT for my Demon Hunter, but B, because this is going to be the most easily to obtain version of this build, right? So we're not going to be having a TNT in this version, okay? You could run it with a TNT, and then you'd be running the boots instead of the boots that I'm running right now. But let's talk about what I am running. And this is going to be a very obtainable build for you guys, okay? So we're using the helmet, and we got Dex, Vite, Elemental Arrow damage on there. We're using the shoulders, Dex, Vite, reduce all resource costs, increase sentry damage. If you could get cooldown reduction on there, it'd be even better than the resource cost reduction, I think. Chest piece, Dex, Vite, sentry damage. Pants, we got Dex, Vite, armor, and we got a little bit of life after kill on there, so that's nice. Nice tanky Marauders pants, okay? That's a good one right there. So those are Marauders pieces, and of course we're using the Ring of Royal Grandeur. That's going to bring down the set pieces required. Okay, guys? That's obviously a must when it comes to the Marauders set. For your belt, guys, if you have a witching hour, use it because it's just going to help you out loads. You're going to go for main stat, attack speed, preferably vitality over armor, and of course the crit damage as high as you can get it. Amulet, right now I'm using Mira's Kaleidoscope, which is pretty good ammi. You know, it protects you from the poison damage and heals you when you're taking poison damage. Basically, you just go for the best amulet you got here, right? If you're using the TNT, a good option would be to go the Traveler's Pledge and a Compass Rose on your secondary ring, because you won't be able to run the boots for the Nats bonus here. So that would be a very viable option. But regardless, you're going for preferably main stat on here or vitality. Depends on how comfortable you are with your survivability. This build doesn't really need that much toughness because of your ability to spam smokescreen. But I like being a little bit more tanky than other demon hunters. So I went for vitality on there. Okay. And here's another big part of this build, another way of getting hatred back really easily, using the Reaper's Wraps, and you can craft these bad boys, right? So we're going lightning skills, dexterity, vitality, crit hit chance, and of course, health globes restore 26% of your primary resource, and that can roll, of course, up to 30%, right? These are freaking great on this build, just fantastic. We are using Natalia's Reflection, dexterity, vitality, attack speed, and Natalia's Bloody Footprints, Dex, Vite, All-Res, preferably armor instead of the All-Res, and elemental arrow damage, guys. Okay, so those are all fairly easy to obtain pieces, especially if you're gambling. Most of these pieces were given to me or I actually dropped for my Witch Doctor. So this is easy to obtain stuff. I mean, with the exception of the Witching Hour. The Witching Hour is a little easier said than done. Other viable belts for this build in particular, where is my Stachio? Oh, it's over here. Other viable belt would be the Vigilant belt because of the cooldown reduction, and I think that this belt might be even more needed on the build come the patch, because the cooldown on smokescreen is being increased come the patch, so we might have to go with the Vigilant belt instead, unless we can get the cooldown reduction elsewhere. Okay. And then let's talk about the heart and soul of this build, guys. One is the Malicious Bolts, which drops pretty frequently. I've gotten a bunch of these. Just in the time I've been looking for a Kridershot, I've picked up like 4 or 5 of these things. So this is pretty easy to obtain. So Dex, Vite, attack speed, increase hatred regen, and sentry damage on there again. And the big thing here is the elemental arrow. Ball lightning now travels at 38% speed. That's going to slow that ball lightning down immensely, and what that's going to do is it's going to cause it to hit more enemies more frequently. It's fantastic. And then lastly, we have the Helltrapper, and the Helltrapper is actually a farmable weapon. You can farm this. There is one place to get it, one place only, and that's from the Act 5 caches, which is great. It's an actual farmable item for a build. It's so nice. You know, this is a heart and soul piece of this build, and you can farm it from the Act 5 caches. And it's really cool. 10% chance on hit to summon a Spike Trap, Caltrap, or Sentries. Okay, so let's get right into this, okay, guys? So check this out. The whole deal here is that basically you want to kind of kite your enemies around. You kind of want to, you know, quick step it, launching these balls like that. What ends up happening is as they're moving slower, so they're hitting more, right? They're moving slower thanks to the Malicious Bolts, which means they're hitting the targets more often, which gives you more chances to proc this, the 10% chance to summon Spike Trap, Caltrap, or Sentry. Really what you want to get out of this is your Sentry, but the Spike Traps and whatnot is just, you know, icing on the cake, okay? And lastly, let's talk about the legendary gems. I'm using Bane of the Trapped because, you know, lightning damage has chance to stun, so increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects. So, you know, your lightning damage has a chance to proc that, and if you put a Thunder Fury on your follower and you're playing solo, that'll proc it as well. And our Polar Station Sentry will also proc that, so you get more damage out of that. And we're using the Tagok. Gain 0.5% increased damage for 3 seconds after spending primary resource. This effect stacks up to 45 times, and gain 0.5% increased armor for every stack. So this build works so well with that gem because you're always spending your primary resource. Now if you look here, if we just look at the damage going up, that's not even the effective, right? Let's look at our effective DPS for a minute here. where is it? Look, 1.2, and that's not even at full stacks, okay? So when that gets up to a full stack, it really adds up really fast. So your toughness goes way up, and your effective DPS goes way up with that thing, okay? And then lastly, Zay's Stone of Vengeance. Damage you deal is increased by 5.25% for every 10 yards between you and the enemy hit. Maximum 26.25% increase at 50 yards. That's very cool. So if you're managing to stay away from enemies, you're going to have a lot more damage output, especially in corridor areas. This works really well. But the big one here on this is a secondary 20% chance on hit to stun the enemy for 1 second. So it just adds to your stun chance, which adds to the overall amount that the Bane of the Trap is being procced, and it's just, I mean, it's just fantastic. So that's the gear, guys. Okay, let's talk about Paragon points for a quick second, guys. Try and not go any movement speed on your gear. I took the movement speed right off the gear and went with it with the Paragon points. Save those stats on your gear for other things. Drop everything else into dex. Attack speed, crit chance, crit damage. Go for what you need first, obviously. You want to try and get it up to, where are we here? I'm running at 2.4 attacks per second, and that seems to be working pretty good. Higher would obviously be better. I think the crit chance needs to be at least 40%, and your crit damage should be at least 350. So you just go with whatever you need to do to get it up to those levels. And then when it comes to defense, all res, armor, life, and utility, life on hit first always, resource cost reduction, and area damage. And that's it, guys. So in all the footage that you'll be seeing on the side, you'll be seeing how kind of you know, pop stepping and kind of kiting the enemies, and you gotta try and line it up nicely so that your ball lightning hits multiple targets at once. And because it's moving so slow, it'll just like drop all these sentries and spike traps and cal traps all over the place instantly, and it just destroys things, even with a fairly low damage rating. The effective DPS, once everything starts going, and you'll see this thing jumps up to 45 stacks in absolute no time. And with Marked for Death on the larger enemies, plus all these other avenues of gaining hatred back, you can keep your hatred up so easily. You can even drop it right down to 0, and then boom, hit your companion again, and you're good. And all the while you're able to pretty much spam smokescreen. Boom, boom. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. It's like a one second cooldown, and that 1 second is nothing. If you get even more cooldown reduction, you can get this to an almost 0 cooldown and be able to spam it infinitely. It's fantastic. So I said at the beginning that I think this is going to be something you're going to see a lot more come the patch, and I want to talk about that quickly before we end the video, guys. So the reason for that is that if you look at the current Marauders set pieces, the 6-piece set, Sentries, Cassier, Equipped Hatred Spenders, it's not going to be the same come the patch. They're still going to cast your Hatred Spenders, but they're only going to fire them when you do, which means you can't load up on Hatred Spenders and expect your Sentries to just decimate everything in sight. You need to pick one, basically. You need to pick one and stick with it, which is why we're using the Ball Lightning, because we can use the Ball Lightning very effectively to get a bonus out of the Helltrapper. And even more so if you do have a Kridershot, which turns Elemental Arrow into a generator, it'd be even stronger. You won't have to worry about hatred at all, and then you can switch some of this stuff up, but we'll get into that version of the build at a later date. So that's it, guys. That is the Helltrapper smokescreen spamming build. It's fantastic. Go check it out. Hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Later.